Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host, my partner, Mr. Shawn Francis. I am Brian Altunian. Today we are guestless, but we are finishing. We're following our series of "There's More to Money Than Just Money," and today's part two. We'll be talking about the gig economy, the impact it has on our special needs community, and really for everybody. But good, fun, exciting conversation. I'm saying exciting because we're already laughing. Stay tuned. Episode 160 of Just Two Dads. Hello, everybody. I am Brian Altunian, along here with Shawn Francis, in episode number 160 of our Just Two Dads. I'm saying that now with emphasis because we've had a discussion about how many episodes we actually have. Some of them have been repeat episodes. And so, I don't know, last week, I think I was like, we're at like 164. And I was corrected by our producer, Sean Hall in Hawaii today. He said, nope, it is 160. So be clear about that. So love you, Sean Hall. Thank you so much. If you're catching us live on Facebook, thank you for joining us. Today's a good conversation. Listen, we're talking about money. We're talking about our community. And so if you're hearing us if you're seeing us after the fact on our YouTube channel, please hit subscribe, and it helps us grow our numbers and our opportunity to keep this production solvent and being straight. If you're catching us on WSTX AM radio down in the U.S. Virgin Islands, or Google, or any podcast, I obviously Google. I know I call that Google Podcast, but any podcast outlet, thank you for making us part of your listening day. A lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to get into it here in just a second. And I just want to throw this out here, a couple things. Shawn and I host a men's support group called The Den every other Sunday morning at 11 o'clock on Pacific time, 10 o'clock. How about that? Screwed that up already. 10 o'clock Pacific time. Safe place, The Den, the most comfortable room in the house to sit and just kick back with the guys and talk about the things that are important to us and our community. So we encourage you. It's free to join. There's no membership fee. And just know that you're not alone. You've got some support. So please join us every other Sunday at the Den. We'll put the link in the notes here, and you can just sign up through the link. Also, as on the flip side of that, the We Are Brave Together is a support group for moms. And I sit on the board of We Are Brave Together, and that is going through a massive expansion. They do a lot of retreats and support for moms who are dealing with kiddos in the special needs community as well. So, by the way, we're looking to add another mom on the board. So, if you have some interest, somebody who would like to participate at a board level of a nonprofit organization, we'd love to talk to you about that. My involvement, I love this organization and what it does for our community. And Shawn and I are committed to making sure that everybody feels heard, feels seen, feels gotten, and empathetic, and just an empathetic ear when you need support. And so both of those create opportunities for community, and that's really what it's all about. So, without further ado, we're going to get into today's topic. Thank you, Shawn, for putting it on the screen. WeAreBraveTogether.org and We Are Brave Together. Amazing organization. And the Den, we've put the form to join us in the show notes as well. So, Mr. Shawn Francis, how are you today, my friend?
I am. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. I'm introspective. Lots of things. Our topic today, kind of, it's funny, you have different levels of consciousness as time goes on. And it dawned on me over the years, I've had thoughts in the back of my head when I meet certain parents who are caregivers or parents to children with special needs, and I wonder, I know how it is that I'm available and have a flexible schedule for IEPs and school outings and things like that. But some of these people that I would meet, not knowing their story, I wonder how their job, they're pretty lucky that their job allows them to do that in cases where I did know that they had flexibility. And then in some cases where I didn't even know what they did for a living, I would wonder about them. And then I saw an article about a week ago that just talked about the changes in the gig economy. And it's always existed. The term gig usually was referred to musicians specifically. And then that expanded to maybe someone that had an acting job and it was just entertainment. And then you would hear people use that term to relate to their 9 to 5. And, when we went through the pandemic in 2020, so many companies went through this shift, and you have all these, the advent of Uber and Lyft, DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, all these different things that are taking place that, the amount of people that work on a 1099 versus a W-2, can't even imagine, what those numbers are like now compared to what they were 10 years ago. But the one thing we don't talk about, and when we talk about financial services, financial literacy, and financial education, and building a bridge between the life that people have and the one that they want through financial literacy, education, and services, we talk a lot about the checklist you should have in terms of short and long-term savings, life insurance, the right type, the right amount, having money in your tax now, tax later, tax never bucket, having the estate plan, all that kind of stuff. But we don't talk too much about the flexibility that parents and caregivers in our community need to be able to be there, to be a caregiver, and then, earn income as well. And so much of how we respond to that is tied to our relationship with money. That even goes back to then your money language, so to speak, whether you're a spender, saver, or whatever the case might be. So I was actually thinking I was going to ask you, because I know that you were, as far as I know, chock full of flexibility with your job or with your business when Jordan was diagnosed. And talk about that, if you a little bit, if you will, and then a little bit about your money relation. I know we've covered that before, so we don't have to cover that for too long.
Yeah,
but I think
sure.
All of that has everything to do with how you deal with it when the diagnosis comes about.
Well, okay. So that's in typical Shawn fashion, there's like 18 things to cover there. So let's just talk about first about the gig economy in general. So what the gig economy in today's terms has done is it has shifted our relationship with work. The pandemic forced a lot of companies to change the way they did business, and that also changed our relationship with the term work, because there were traditional guidelines on how work happened. You worked 9 to 5. Remember that was working the 9 to 5. You went to an office. You worked up the corporate ladder. You did what was asked of you, and you continued to hit milestones, and then you accomplished goals that would give you a disappearing shoulder. That would give you, for those watching, my shoulders disappeared.
Yeah, for those not on YouTube, they won't know what that means.
Yeah, I know. That was like my shoulders disappearing. So it would give you, milestones and targets to hit. And if you did the things that you were supposed to do in corporate America, you could retire after 40 years with a nice pension, retirement, and get the gold watch and a nice send off. And think about that. Our kids today don't have any idea what that's like. I would say that the number of people that work on one job for 40 years and retire at 60, 65, with that gold watch, I would say that number is in the infinitesimal, minute amounts. But back when we were young, that was the thing. That was the aspirational goal. In fact, if you job hopped, people said that was a bad thing. It looked like you didn't have any loyalty. You couldn't be counted on. You couldn't, all of those things, right? So there's been transition in the workplace for a really long time. Pandemic forced it a little bit. And what's happened is individuals have said, I want you to value me for the work that I do. Right. And so people have put a lot of value on the contributions they make. Now, by the way, there are still people who work in corporations. There are still people who do the traditional jobs, and that's great, because there are companies that still need the worker who's willing to do that. And in exchange for that, the company provides benefits, health benefits, retirement plans, those types of things. And that's the trade-off. But for folks who think, look, I'm never appreciated. We used to have a saying, we used to have two sayings in corporate America. One was, first of all, the corporation will never be as good to you as you are to the corporation. It just never is, because when you're layoffs, lay people off regardless of their personal situation. Right. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, and relative or reflective of that layoff mentality, is especially in the entertainment industry where I spent 20 plus years, it was always, hey, by the way, if my boss calls, tell me who it is, because there's always regime change and people make these wholesale changes. And so you realize, like, you could devote a bunch of years to your organization, and because of some situation, economic or otherwise, outside of your control, you could be let go, and everything that you envision happening would be gone in a minute. And that's disconcerting for a lot of folks. And so a lot of people say, well, you, corporation, don't value my time as much as I do. And in fact, you don't know that, we have people, and we know, especially as parents of children with special needs, there's certain times of the day where I'm more productive than other times. And if you can only work, if you're stuck into a box of 9 to 5, that may not be the time that you're the most productive. I know people who wait, till their kids go to bed, and then they, have a late cup of coffee, and they are incredibly productive from 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. And so what the gig economy has done is it's changed the concept of work, and it's changed the concept of value to the workplace. And so it's also given people the idea that, I can be flexible with my time and put my time and effort where it needs to be. If you're a parent of a special needs child and you were stuck in a 9 to 5 job, and if you didn't work the 9 to 5 and be there when you're supposed to be there, and take lunch when you're supposed to take lunch, and leave when you're supposed to leave, you would lose your benefits. And as a parent, you're like, oh my God, I can't afford to lose my benefits to support my child. It's become a very scary issue. So, like, I, as a parent, need flexibility. And the gig, to your point about gigs were things that would come up on, not unscheduled, because you could schedule a gig, but in a non-traditional sense of timing. And so, I got a gig. I had an acting gig. I got a, our band has a gig next Saturday, whatever. So that is the idea. The gig is it may not be consistent, but it is there when you're ready. And how many think about this, Shawn? If you have a band and you've got a gig on Saturday, you're going all in. Nothing's going to stop you, right? That's right. And you give it your all, because that's your passion, and that's when you are on stage to shine. Same with an acting gig, right? You want to make that a more consistent thing. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it sounded like your phone was blowing up.
Yeah, I think it was going on. But you're an acting gig. You want to turn that gig into a more consistent experience. And so again, a gig and the gig economy is, I'm going to be productive when I'm called, and I'm going to give it my all when I'm there, and I'm going to earn the money that's reflective of the work that I'm doing, where people are going to appreciate the work and the time and the commitment that I make when I make it. And so for families with special needs children, or have schedules that are also sporadic, where you can, the great thing about Lyft and Uber is you click the button on the app. I'm driving, I'm not driving. I'm driving, I'm not driving. I'm available, I'm not available. And for those of us, that has shifted the way we think about work. Finding opportunities where you have that kind of flexibility is paramount to our, as parents of special needs kids.
I saw, good idea. I saw a post. It's a nostalgic group, a group based on steeped in nostalgia on Facebook, where somebody said, name a sound that you used to hear as a child that you don't hear anymore. And some people said things like, and people said things like, a playing card in the spokes of a bike so that it made the clicking noise as you ride the bike, the sound of a rotary phone. I was sitting there thinking, in our conversation, the things I used to hear years ago that you don't hear anymore. It was very common to hear, so-and-so is hiring, or they're hiring down at so-and-so. nobody says that anymore. Or someone says, yeah, he's got a good job, a good, you don't even hear those terms anymore. You might hear that, oh, there's a new store opening or something like that, but nobody even just stops to say that such and such a place is hiring. The whole idea is different. And so from all those changes has then spurred the the entrepreneur, the wantrepreneur, the intrapreneur as well. People that leverage a platform or an entity to work independently and possibly build a business of their own. But getting back to the 5-in-1 question I asked you.
Yeah, which one did I answer? Did I answer any of them? I don't even know.
Yeah. I gave you too many. It's impossible for you to miss, but it was also impossible to hit all of them. But the one I'm thinking of is your relationship with money based on, how you were raised, based on work and labor, right? And money, and who you were at the time of Jordan's diagnosis as it relates to that and the flexibility that you had.
Yeah, first of all, I grew up in a family business. I worked 70 hours, 80 hours a week. Work ethic was never an issue for me.
Right.
The pay that I used to get for the work that I did was probably higher than most of the folks that I knew as my peers, because my father put money away in a safety deposit box for me, to be able to access, as well as a paycheck that I could get counted. But it was very entrepreneurial. I mean, it was very entrepreneurial lifestyle. So when I eventually left that and went into corporate America, I was stuck with that idea of like, well, wait a minute, this eliminates a lot of my flexibility. So I left corporate America and was really doing consulting work, because consulting work allowed me to, as on the finance side of things, allowed me to have a flexible schedule and to dictate my hours of availability. So when Jordan was diagnosed, and by the way, at the same time, my father-in-law at the time was also diagnosed with I want to say it was
dementia?
Parkinson's, but it was not. It was not Parkinson's, but it was a Lou Gehrig disease. It was
ALS.
Yeah, thank you. Jeez.
Yeah,
we only work with the medically complex. I can't remember ALS. So yeah, and he deteriorated, rapidly over 3 or 4 years. So because I had a consulting biz at the time and I could set my schedule, I was available to have, take Jordan to, therapies and what she needed, and be available for my father-in-law at the same time as well. And I realized, by the way, the value to the flexibility in my schedule was worth more than dollars that I could make in a corporate job that restricted my movement. Also, because I saw my folks as entrepreneurs. My mom was in real estate. She ate what she killed, kind of thing, right? So you go get a deal, you get paid. And so watching both my parents have their own businesses and be able to, again, dictate their terms, I watched that and then went the opposite route, right? I went into corporate America and then realized the value of that time and freedom. So that's, for me, when Jordan was diagnosed, I had that flexibility, and it was worth so much.
It was immeasurable.
It was immeasurable. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I just wanted to kind of repeat that, so let me get this straight. You've got the benefit of benefits, and whether it's an hourly wage or a salary in corporate America, you took a shift because you're thinking the flexibility is what you want. But you made a distinction at that point that what was valued even above the money was the flexibility. And for a lot of people that are listening, I think what they need to figure out, especially those of us that are caregivers, is first figure out, okay, what is the most important thing to you? Because we talk about, if you make money doing something you love, you never work a day in your life. That's simple, but sometimes easier said than done, especially when money has to be made and you have, obligations and stuff. But if you're going to create an opportunity for yourself or work independently in the gig economy or whatever the case might be, one of the first things to figure out is the distinction that you made, which is, what is the most important thing? What do I want more than anything else? That's huge.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I want to share too. I was given a gift. was given a gift in one of my corporate jobs. I was going to mention who that was, but I'm not going to now. I'm just going to say it's a well-known, at one time the most recognizable corporate brand in the world. And when I was offered I was paid what I thought was a below level salary for the work that I was doing. And the gift that I got was I got an opportunity. Somebody, a friend of mine, offered me a job at double that salary. So when I gave my notice, the gift that I got, I worked in the finance area for this corporation, and my boss was the CFO who was based in Washington, D.C., and I was working in California in the production offices of this company, really under the daily directive of the head of that office in California. And so the gift I received was when I quit and gave notice to my boss, the CFO. He said, I'm going to tell you, I'm not surprised. I never really gave you the compensation that you deserve, partially because I never felt that you were my guy. I always felt that you were that guy's guy, and that I didn't really have any say in what you were doing on a day-to-day basis. And, I didn't give you the proper value. And it was really an admission that most corporate executives
will never
vocalize. They think it and they act it, and they never vocalize it. And I realized at that moment, again, that comment, corporation will never be as good to you as you are the corporation. The job that I was hired for, by the way, I could do 3 days out of the month. It was so I could have done what a lot of people do and just sit back and just do my job for 3 days out of the month and, screw off for the rest of the time. But I didn't. Right. In fact, what I did is I took an entrepreneurial approach within the organization, and I set up multiple divisions in our California office of revenue generation, and was never acknowledged for the work that I did in that area and giving, opportunity. Instead, I was told, never really valued you because I never thought you were my guy. You were that guy's guy. So his ego prevented me from being happy in my job and had me leave.
Isn't that something else? Because we always talk about, are you an asset or a liability on the balance sheet of your company? So when a company has to choose between its profitability and your check, which feeds your family and puts a roof over your head, what do you expect them to choose? And here you are giving an example of when you actually do what Napoleon Hill says, which is do more than is asked of you, right? Increase your value. We always say that if you increase your value, you can increase your income because you're more valuable. In a situation where you don't control the destiny and the entity is not yours, you've upped the value that can be counted in terms of dollars and revenue, and it still was not enough.
Right. Yeah. Not enough. Somebody else controlling my income, somebody else controlling my family's future. So I kind of thought, to your point, if you can up the volume and up your value, then do that in a place where you have control. And in fact, for entrepreneurs, and by the way, it's not a guarantee, right? Some entrepreneurs work hard, work. They start a business, they do everything they can, and it doesn't succeed and it fails. It does happen, right? There's certain things that are out of our control, but the power, the energy flow that occurs when you're creating your own thing and you're doing your own thing. And by the way, it's stressful, both good stress and bad stress.
Yeah,
both good stress and totally not for everybody, right? Because there are times when it's stressful, negatively stressful, and you can't sleep because you can't sleep because you've got to pay other people, or you've got something that's due, and like it can be stressful. But by the way, honestly, really, this is funny. When you're in love, or when you fall in love, same thing happens, right? There's an energy flow. There's something that comes through your body. All of a sudden, the world looks different. Colors are vibrant. Songs, like love songs, mean something, right? Like all of a sudden, you're like, wait, I've never heard that song like that before. A lot of things change. It's the same thing when you have if you are inspired to do something that that, that really lights you up, that you decide to build a business or start a business or join a business, it is like falling in love. It is like the world is opportunity. And
Hey, look,
that's what a lot of people fall in love with. Yeah.
yeah, because the truth of the matter is, I know what it's like to be up, have trouble sleeping because of worry. I also know what it's like to have trouble sleeping because I can't wait for the next day, or I'm just excited and inspired. And the latter is much, much better than the former. I heard Mark Cuban say once, he said, I would rather work for myself earning $50,000 a year than earn $1 million working for somebody else. And you think about what that really, really means.
It really is. It really is. So what you're saying, I had that experience last week as I'm taking on a new iteration of the work that we're doing. I literally could not sleep. And I was like, did I have caffeine today? Like, why am I wide awake? And all of these thoughts were going through my head. And I got up at 2:00 in the morning and I dashed off, an email. And by the way, for anybody who's ever received an email from me, I don't know how to do like Shawn and I verbally, I don't know how to write emails that are short. I write these, and it was a long one. And it was kind of like an opus. It was I felt a little bit like Jerry Maguire, by the way, right? Like Jerry Maguire and, the whole, show me the money kind of thing. Like it was a manifesto. When you're up and you're excited and you write a manifesto of the things that you want to accomplish, and the power and the energy and the flow, your soul gets lit up when you can do that kind of thing. And by the way, I'll take that every day over healthcare and, making sure my vision care is paid for, you know what I mean? Or that my 401k is being contributed to, because the power that when I say power, I don't mean it from an ego perspective. I mean that the sense of purpose, the sense of
the power of choice too.
And the power of choice, 100%. That is really what it's.
And that's not a judgment. That's just because the other thing is, remember, you're talking about you went that route. You can understand why someone would go that route, and everything about everything around us. I don't know if that's redundant. It probably is. Teaches us to settle. Think about it. For those of us that are receiving, benefits, especially something like SSI, right? Young adults that are disabled or neurodivergent, you're taught to settle, because what happens is if you make too much, right? And of course, it's not as bad as it used to be prior to the ABLE account, but if you make too much, those benefits that you're getting, they're going to be taken away, and so your thought is like, well, I don't, I think there's some people that honestly, are victims of being given fish as opposed to being taught how to fish. And then there's also some people that are like, no, I want to go out and catch my own fish, but I'm afraid because the fish that I have that I need to eat in order to survive and help my loved ones survive while I'm learning to build my own fishing company, that's going to be taken away if I catch too much fish.
By the way, it's exactly the same situation as a job in corporate America, right? And so here's the thing.
Yep,
I get it, and so I'm going to take this position as an entrepreneur. I'd much rather go and find an opportunity or multiple opportunities, because multiple revenue streams is a great way to go, so that I'm not having to rely on that. Because the one thing we've learned about the government in this country is that stuff can be taken away at any moment for any reason.
Yes,
like that. Government programs can end like that. We're dealing a lot with this employee retention tax credit that has been talked about, that companies that had paid for keeping their employees on board during the pandemic, and that the government was saying, look, we mandated you to shut down. We encouraged you to keep your employees on employed, and now we're going to give you a tax credit. You've already paid corporate taxes, and we're going to give you some of that back as an acknowledgement of what you've done for your employees. Sounds great. Just killed it. They just killed it with another year, 18 to 24 months to go. For the companies that are just hearing about it now don't qualify. We're talking about the opportunity for millions and millions of dollars. So the point is that the government programs that we count on and rely on, in a way they are, and I'm not taking a political approach here. We count on them as a source of subsistence. When the reality is just like health benefits or some sort of benefit at a job also can be taken away at any moment. If a corporation restructures, oftentimes one of the first things to get cut are benefits to employees. So the idea that you rely on an external source to support, and by the way, not a judgment. I totally get it. Like in some cases, we don't have much choice and we have to take these IHHS. We have to take these support. We have to take take advantage of the program that's available to us. Every government program has some limitation. We're going to give it to you, but you have to fit into the box. Right. So my perspective as an entrepreneur is find ways to generate income that doesn't have you rely on that, where you're in control of it, and gives you the flexibility of your schedule, gives you the freedom to make those kinds of choices, and in some cases don't require you to have to leave your child or leave your situation. Many of these opportunities can be done from home. Many of these opportunities, and I'm not telling everybody go get a home-based business. I'm just saying acknowledge the fact that you are valuable. You create value. You're caring for a child or a loved one with a neurodivergent or a special needs, medically complex issue. So clearly you have the ability to navigate difficult waters. You have the ability to face adversity. So have that, take those characteristics and apply them to a business setting and find a way to generate revenue. Right?
Yeah.
Write a book. You just do a blog post.
Yeah. And you just made me think of something else too, which is the first thing is also like there's immeasurable value in knowing your benefits. And what do I mean by that? So a 401k is something that can be a little complex in terms of how you make your allocation choices and things like that. And usually when someone comes out and presents to employees, they simply say, we offer A, B, and C. Nobody helps you make any of those choices. What's going to get you a shot at the highest rate of return? That doesn't take place. But what's a little more simple that most people don't understand, and it seems like I've had a lot of instances where I hear this lately, which is people seem to have this sigh of relief as it relates to the life insurance that is offered through an employer. Now, they're usually very inexpensive, and because they're inexpensive, I think it would behoove you to take advantage of it. It makes sense to do that, but know what it is. There's a reason why it's fairly inexpensive, and that's because it's a group plan. So when people say, yeah, I have life insurance. Yeah, I've got it through work. Well, if you have it through work, you don't have it because it's not your life insurance. It's the employer's life insurance. There's a reason why you didn't take a physical for it. There's a reason why it's so inexpensive, because it's theirs. So in most cases, it's not portable, meaning you can't take it with you when you leave that job. And again, if they have to choose between profitability and continuing to offer that to you, they're going to choose the profitability, which means that they'll do one of several things that are necessary to remain profitable or close to it, which is either change the parameters of the policy, the amount of coverage, the terms, whatever the case may be, or do away with it altogether, or go with somebody that offers something that costs them less, but may not suit your needs as well. So take advantage of it if it's there, but know what it means to have something that's your own.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And I think that people should understand too, that, getting a life insurance policy through work, first of all, it's a term policy, and it's an annual renewable term policy, which means, to your point, if the company decides they don't want to offer that benefit, they've only committed to 1 year at a time, really, for everybody. Second of all is, if you leave that job, and you don't have any other life insurance, what do you do for your family? How does your family benefit if God forbid something should happen to you? Right? There's so many other things that are limited. You're right. A lot of people's like, I don't need life insurance. I've got it through my work. Well, that's great if you die at work. But I don't know how many people, and by the way, as a corporation, they're hoping that you die at work too, right? They're hoping that you work until you die. But who does that? So that's not going to happen for the majority of people. So, take it if it's free, but don't rely on that as being the only source. You want to look at other opportunities. I agree with you 100%. And the fact that companies and most HR folks at companies don't fully understand the benefits that they offer people. They do it because ADP offers it, or Paychex, or Insperity, other company.
And there's tax benefits for them offering it. Or in the state of California, they're mandated to offer it.
It's mandated,
or
right.
or they have to then get, Cal Savers, which is a whole nother story, which is, as a business owner, would you want to offer to your employees, especially if you happen to be in a business owner that really cares about your employees, would you want to offer a plan that you have a say in, or one that is mandated upon you, which you have no say in at all?
Right. So again, I will say the thing that I say all the time about finances is the government and the banking system are the two institutions that are supposed to take care of the average American family. And I will tell you that those two institutions, they favor the wealthy and the business owner. Always, number one. Average American family is not getting, if there's a benefit from a bank or the government, chances are there's some hooks, limitations, or other restrictions that the average American family cannot take advantage of. And if you're dealing with a child with special needs, there's a whole other set of those kinds of restrictions, limitations as well. So, be educated, understand what's available to you when it comes to finances, find somebody trustworthy, find somebody who's not in it. What we always say in our business, it's mission before commission. Our job is to make sure that people are taken care of, and that our mission is that people have an education, and to your point, find financial literacy more than, whether or not we get paid on the work that we do. And by the way, we get paid on the work that we do, to be clear.
And the main thing is to just I made a post the other day that the headline I made was, you should do this. This is what you should do in order to have a happy and healthy life, and blah, blah, blah. And then the post itself said, how many times do you see posts by, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes for those on YouTube, gurus who, tell you that this is what you must do? I think people appreciate more someone who's learning as they go and they share what they've learned. And there's far more value in, getting information and making an educated choice as to what's best for you. And with that said, I saw an article on Business Insider just a couple of days ago about a guy that cracked $100,000 in annual income driving Uber. Now that's a lot of driving, right? But
a lot of driving.
After his expenses, it's probably about 20,000, 20 to 30, something like that, right? And I was blown away by several things. First of all, the fact that he's even looking at it that way, which one should, right? Especially if you're on a 1099. What does it cost me to do this thing, and what's my actual profit? So when it comes to to Uber's cut, his maintenance, his repairs, and the fact that he's gotten in a couple accidents because he drives like 6 days a week. He's got one day off that he doesn't drive. That's a lot of output. And that was the first thing that impressed me, the fact that he was looking at it as a business, looking at it in terms of a profit and loss statement. The other thing that really impressed me is that despite the numbers that I just mentioned to you, that and the fact that he loves meeting people, to him, it's worthwhile to do that. And 100%. So his needs, that 20,000 is enough. Now for me, being away from my family, running up 100,000 in terms of what's coming in, but then only 20 is the profit. That's not a fair trade-off to me, but that works for him. Yeah.
But Shawn, think about it. 20% net. And I'm going to say, I'm selling that's going to be after taxes as well, because it's not 80,000 expenses to run that.
Yeah.
So after
it is including taxes.
So you're talking about $100,000 income, pay your tax and everything else, and then be left with $20,000 to $30,000 in every year profit.
Yeah.
Your own terms, doing the thing that you love to do. We don't know what his family situation is, right? You know, he wants to get away from his family. Like, that is a successful business
but that's what I mean. Yes, it's successful because of him. For me, that time away, and they didn't say anything about his family situation. And that's my point. Figure out what it is that matters, like for you. That's not me, but for him, he loves that.
I'm going to tell you, I think that if we all focus on the gifts that we're given, and pay attention to those things, they're not there on accident. And the reason I say that is I had another gift many years ago. My brother-in-law was graduating from UC Berkeley, and I went to his graduation ceremony, and Tom Peters was the keynote speaker. Now, Tom Peters has written many, many books. In Search of Excellence was his big book, which is what makes an excellent company. Did a lot of exploration in being an excellent company, and From Good to Great, and many other books. Tom Peters. And if anybody who spent any time in business school, you've read the entire Tom Peters library. I have read almost every book written by Tom Peters, and I love his philosophy. And as a keynote speaker, one of the things that he said, which hit me at the right time, and I've never, ever forgotten it, is if you're going to be away from your family for 8 or 9 hours a day or whatever it is, you better do what you love to do. If you don't like people, don't go into management. It's the kind of thing like if you love sports, you don't have to be an athlete. You can be involved in a sports organization or a sports apparel company or a sports management business or something around sports. But because if you're going to be away from your family, and you're going to go a career path, do what you love that lights you up. Be in the area. If you love the entertainment industry, you don't have to be an actor or a performer. You can be in any number of, opportunities around the entertainment industry, but being around the entertainment industry is going to light you up. So the same thing holds. So we don't know about this guy. It's very possible. Again, we can make up so many scenarios about his situation. He could have had a spouse that passed and he's all alone. He doesn't want to sit at home alone.
Exactly.
He could be, right? He loves people and he loves driving. What better opportunity than Uber or Lyft, right? That's how people should look at it. So I'm not saying that, you've got a flexible schedule, a schedule that you can have and be flexible, but you can now look at the things that light you up because it's not going to be work. And you're going to be valued for the work that you do because you're going to be passionate about the work that you're doing. That's one of the reasons why I love the financial services business is I love educating people about stuff that they don't know about or that they've been told and that they have really limited purview into what these financial vehicles actually do and what they actually mean. And so when I do presentations, people are like, "Wow, your passion really comes out. You really love what you do." Like I can talk about this stuff all day long. I can talk about financial stuff all day long because I love it. And by the way, I'm not an expert at it. I love it. I love doing it. And I love that we get paid well to do the things that we do. So,
and it's about why too, because if you think about the whole thing, the series, which is there's more to money than money. It's not about the money. Matter of fact, they've said beforehand, the things that, to figure out what really makes money, so valuable, it's people. Because if you really think about it, they'll say, the house, the car, whatever it is that you're going to get, that's not what it is that you're really crazy about. What you're crazy about is the feeling you have when you get that thing. And that's a far cry.
Sure. For sure. If you love dogs, you have them on in the background doing your podcast.
Exactly.
Hey, it's all good. The reason why I love doing this podcast the way we do it, just for everybody anybody who's listening or watching it, is that we don't cut this. We don't hyper produce this podcast because for us as parents of children with special needs and for we live in a real world. We don't live in a polished, well-lit. I can't even get my lighting to work properly. Like we don't live in a well-lit world all the time, right? It can be messy. Right. It can be noisy. That is life. And that's what we deal with on a regular basis. We have flexibility in it. Flexibility is a key word in our mindset because we have to be flexible. Elijah doesn't sleep a typical normal, of the air quoted normal sleep schedule.
No, he does not.
By the way, anybody, just I'm not going to have you feel my pain, but I get texts and emails from Shawn at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning where, I'm in some cases I'm ready for bed and I just kind of look over and I'm like, that's all right. They'll look at it tomorrow. But because I know that that's your awake time. And I know that if I hit you at 8:30 in the morning, when a lot of people start their workday, that I'm probably not going to get you. Sometimes it's why I hit you at that time. But I know that I'm not going to get you because you've got your schedule is flexible because you have to be. As parents of children with neurodiverse issues, we have to be flexible in everything that we do. So anyways, I don't know where I got off on that tangent, but I love the fact that we have flexibility in our DNA. It's in our DNA.
Yeah,
It is.
and I just think it's important to us, period. And then when I say us, I mean the one thing Elijah's diagnosis, our initiative to bring financial literacy to our community, this show and everything, what it's really taught me more than anything else is I always talk about any community that is underserved, things that are important to everyone, generally speaking, is 10 times important to the underserved. And the underserved community as citizens of this planet is just one big onion. Because if you take people of color, right? They're a minority, we're underserved, regardless of what that color may be. Anything non-white, so to speak. If you then take men and women, women are a minority, so women are underserved. But then within that, because men are, supposedly run the world on paper, or, and there's inequality that takes place there, men are underserved, which is the reason why we have our group, because men have been taught to allow themselves to be underserved when it comes to emotional availability. So then when you take all of that and then add a diagnosis, whether you're neurodivergent or you're talking about just, the aged, you're the epitome of underserved. And so anything that's important to anyone is twice as important to all of us.
By the way, I don't think, but women are underserved. They're not a minority in terms of numbers. There's actually more women on the planet than there are men, but underserved because of societal issues have dictated, that there's an underserved population. So I hear what you're saying. I totally agree with you. And I think, listen, at a time of complete, divide and divisiveness in this country, although, by the way, I feel like it's less divisive than it was a few years ago. It still exists. There's still a divide. There's still a separation. But there's still a difference in opinion about how things should be handled. And we're not unique in this country. Again, we know that the situation going on in the Middle East, Israel, that's in the middle of a conflict. That's a country that's in constant divide. There's part of the Jewish culture to debate. You can have, people in the same family that have 15 different perspectives on things. It's part of our nature and part of the culture to have debate and conflict and divisive conversations, but it's done in the course of love and it's honored and respected. And I'm just gonna say one thing about this because I'm still blown away by it. First of all, the fact that there's any conversation about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, we'll leave that one aside for the moment because that's going to come up on Sunday during the Super Bowl. I'll leave that one aside. If you watch the Grammys and you watch Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs do their version of Fast Car that Tracy released 35 years ago, I just put a post on this today. Oh my God. Think about this. The words of the song Fast Car, as delivered by Tracy Chapman at the time that she did it when she was young versus now as she's older. She's in a community that's the LGBTQ community that is, again, a minority. And then you take Luke Combs, who's in a completely opposite situation, straight white male country. And the two of them, from their different perspectives, the words of that song mean something different to each of them. Mm-hmm. The same words, but sung by him versus sung by her, and sung by her when she was in her 20s and sung by her now as in her 50s. The words mean something different. And it made me realize we all come to everything with different words. And so it's from our perspective. And so if we can get that, there's no wrong or right in that the perspective from which they operate is so different. And yet together, it was absolutely a magical moment in the Grammys. There were so many magical moments this year. And it just makes me feel that it doesn't really matter where you come from. If you have respect for each other, and again, in this time that we have divisiveness, it's divisiveness that's created. It's totally man-made. Because if we can get together and understand each other's perspectives and see the words being spoken from the perspective that they're coming from, man, there's so much that we can earn, learn, and grow from. I don't know why that hit me today, but I'm just saying that every community deserves to be served.
And
And
seen and
so,
heard. Yeah.
and seen and heard, every individual, and the value that we bring, first of all, starts in that space between your two ears. You have to understand the value that you bring to a conversation, to a relationship, to an opportunity. Once you get that and you see that, then you want to make sure that other people respect those boundaries too, and other people respect that, because your value will be seen by others. You can dictate it. The gig economy is an opportunity for you to apply the strengths that you have, the time, the passion, the commitment, all of those things that you can bring to an opportunity. It has changed the way that we work, and it will change it forever. Work will never be the same. Will never be what it was in the 50s. Will never be what it was in the 80s, and will never be what it was in the early 2000s. It's completely changed. So
Absolutely.
God bless for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. With that said, it's funny. I thought of something. It's not related, but is, because as you talk about being seen, and we talk about, I don't even think tolerance is the right word, but just, our being able to come together as citizens of the planet. It's not a very new book, but it's on my list to get. Love to have him on the show. A gentleman by the name of David Brooks. His book is, How to Know a Person, the Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen. And I looked at his a talk he gave at the Philadelphia Public Library just the other day. And he was talking about, I end the show talking about, everybody needs to be seen, needs to be heard, no matter what. And there's something to be said for the art of seeing people. Sometimes, sometimes we're not as good as we think we are at seeing people. There's that, because it's such a good thing to do, there's an assumption that it is so innate. For instance, all my life, my dad has been my battery, like the motivator. So I was talking with my sister about this. I think it was like yesterday. I was saying, you don't stop and think of him as being someone that needs encouragement, because he's always encouraging people. So I called him today and I said, there's a very famous saying that says, who motivates the motivator? And he started cracking up. And I said, you don't ever think of you needing a charge because you're busy charging everyone, but how dare I feel that you don't need that? And he goes, okay, well, let me ask you something though. You're not telling me, are you saying that you're volunteering to be the motivator or to give me my charge? I said, well, not only am I doing so, but I must be doing a crappy job because I just attempted to give you a charge. He goes, no, I got a charge out of that. I'm just trying to make sure. I said, okay, yes, not only am I volunteering, but I'm recruiting family to make sure that they know that you need that uplifting as well. And, we can't ever forget that everybody needs that. The person who has the brightest lights upon them, the biggest names on the field, the court, or the stage, at the end of the day, they're human. And not only do they want to be seen and heard, but, there's something that you get out of really seeing and hearing other people too. And it's a work in progress, and we should never tire of it, no matter how long we live.
Listen, I love it. And I love that you brought that up. And I also want to say the best part about all this is that the ability to see other people is also our ability to see ourselves. We have two, and we have, and by the way, we have friends of our show and people that we know. Susanna Peace Lavelle has written a book called Your True Self Is Enough. Great story for parents of special needs children, and the reflection of the journey that she's been on as a parent of special needs. I encourage you to do that. Definitely on available on Amazon, and we'll put the link here in a second. And then I have a friend who has just written a book called Your You, which is a beautiful book, which talks about, again, another person who has gone through that self-reflective journey of things that have inspired her and encourage us to look at who we are, the value that we bring, and who we are in the world. Once you can start to do that on a regular and consistent basis, you will be able to see others. You will be able to see the value of others, because you're seeing by the way, a lot of the things that we admire about other people are those things that we admire and love about ourselves. The things that we do not like about other people are reflections of things that we have internally that we don't care for, that we don't like also. So your ability to look at yourself here, I'm going to put here, you've done great. You did Susanna's Peace Lavelle, and I'm going to put Liz's up here as well. So I was able to grab that too. Boop. I don't know if that thing went through or not, but yeah, there we go. So your true self is enough, and you're you. 2, by the way, beautiful, exceptional, badass women who are writing stories of self-reflection that are the valuable lessons for all of us. So I encourage you to look at both of those. We don't get paid anything for promoting these books. These are books and people that we love and admire, and books that we have gotten value out of. Hopefully you will as well. So there's Susanna's, and then there's your you. So encourage you guys to do that. So we've hit our mark. We've gone beyond it. And I'm going to say this conversation is all about, again, it all includes the things that we talk about all the time. Empathy and love is mine. Being seen, being gotten is something that Shawn says all the time. Oh my gosh, you're right. We have a third book. Another friend of the show. Sohee June has written a book as well. Really, she's a consultant and a guide for women entrepreneurs, strong business women. It's her second book. She's putting out. It's out now, also on Amazon. So Sohee June, Jun, Sohee Sohee. I encourage you to get hers as well. Again, 3 amazing women, fabulous women, in the books that they've written. Opportunity for you. Even if you're not a woman, I promise you're going to get value out of it, guys. So do it. So as we wrap up, I want to, thank Shawn Hall for, our great graphics and guides and guidance, 160. We thank Billy Footwear. We've just put the link up here as well. Billy Footwear does adaptive footwear. His company is doing incredible, and his personal story is worth it. If you've ever faced an adversity in life, go read Billy Price's story at billyfootwear.com. We love him. The Den, we've put that up as well. Join us for dads, or if you know of dads of special needs, neurodiverse, medically complex kiddos, please join us, because you're not alone. We're here together.
And if you click on the link for Billy Footwear, you get 10% off as well. And if that happens to take place when they have a sale, it's 10% off whatever the price might be at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Go do that. They're great. They're great people. We are Brave Together. Awesome support group for women to retreats, respite, care, love, empathy, everything that you need. We are grateful to have the opportunity to do this show. We love it when we have guests, and frankly, we love it when we don't, because Shawn and I get to talk about the stuff we think is important to us and to our audience, and hopefully you get value out of it as well. Thank you for listening to us on WSTX AM radio and podcast outlets everywhere. If you're catching us on YouTube at our YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. Let us know if you've got comments. You can send us email at wearejusttwodads@gmail.com. And please let us know. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to put up there, Shawn. There we go. We are just two dads. Let us know if there's a subject matter you'd like us to cover, something that we've said that you have interest in, or questions. We are here for you. Be empathetic about the people around you. You never know what their situation is. And if you look at the world through lenses of love, the world just looks better. I promise you, you will be lit up if you can look at everything from the perspective of love and what love means to you as well. With that, Shawn, I'm going to throw it over to you to close us out.
Thank you so much for everyone taking the time to tune in and follow us. Remember, we should try and be a little bit more childlike and less childish. As a child, you see the possibility in any and everything, and just as, if not more important, also in everyone. And again, thanks to Shawn Hall, our producer out in Hawaii. Stay tuned for all the stuff that we have coming up. We have some great shows and events coming up as well. And just remember, everybody needs to be seen, needs to be heard, and needs to know that they're loved. And to everyone within the sound of my voice, if you can hear me, we love you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.